This podcast contains potentially adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly sexual context. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Drinking with Authors, the podcast. I'm your host, Erica Lance. Our sponsor today is Skunk Brothers Spirits. If you go to their website, type in coupon code DWA10, you get 10% off of their awesome fare, I should say. They are a brother-owned, family-owned, veteran-owned business in Washington State. Woo!
A lot of owned things.
There's a lot of owned. I would say owned 20 times in this. Also, listeners, feel free to like, subscribe, and don't forget to review us. We love to hear what you think of Val while she's hosting.
I'm not allowed to eat anymore, guys.
That's we have many missteps. There's a reason for that.
What if it's sponsored? If it's sponsored,
I'll eat sponsored food. Yes, there we go. If you want to see Val.
Okay, we're not starting a fetish channel of people watching you eat on this show. That's not happening. That's not what this podcast is about.
I admit it. I'm causing trouble already.
Yes, and yes, that is not surprising. Also, listeners, if there is an author you would like to see on this podcast, or you're an author that wants to be on the podcast, email us at drinkingwithauthors@gmail.com. We'd love to have you, or hunt down the author you would like to have on here. And with that, of course, Val has come in with the co-hosting, so I have no real reason to actually validly introduce her. But our amazing guest today, who's been around the industry what seems like forever in a day, is Alexi Vandenberg. So, woo!
Hey guys, thanks for having me on this.
Of course, you've supplied us many a guest. You should have been on way before. But you are a published author now, so let's talk about that first. You have your book, Shameless Self-Promotion. Let's do it.
Not quite yet. It will be out in September.
September, okay.
Yes.
So what is the book?
The book is actually an industry guide. It's called New York Publishing is Dying, but Books Are Selling Great. It is an experiential book, as well as all of my research and all that I have done in terms of both experience as somebody who has been within the publishing industry, both from the outside looking in and the inside looking around, as well as market data and market research and all the research that I have applied both to my career with Rabid Fanboy Marketing, but also how that has emerged into two entirely separate businesses, which is Bard's Tower and Prince of Cats Literary Productions, and why I did it this way and how I took it away. Because despite the fact that my wife happily calls me a stack of books with legs, I didn't originally start in the literary world, and in fact I had no ambitions towards it. That kind of was a accident.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we have to hear the story. You know what I realized? I got so distracted. We didn't talk about what we're drinking.
Oh, there you go.
How bad is that? Oh my God. Okay.
Oh no.
I know. Val, you ruined me on these podcasts. No other co-host causes these problems. Oh my God. Okay.
Jacques on mon petit petard.
So in the new Drinking with Authors swag, you'll get some of this, Alexi, for being on the podcast. I am drinking fruit punch, because I had a lot of fruit punch. I don't want to even explain why that is, but it's organic fruit punch and vodka.
Ooh.
It's got Tito's in it. I'm pretty excited about this.
That's good. Whenever I watch Lord of the Rings, and they're like, taters, mash them, cook them, put them in the stew. I'm like, and make booze out of them. You forgot the most important part.
I have my tater booze. Val, what are you drinking today?
A concoction. It's a spin on the Irish coffee, but I put like some caramel in there just to jazz it up.
Oh, great. So you're jacked up on booze and sugar.
And
that's fantastic. In your Jason Momoa mug.
Yes, in my Jason Momoa mug that says, "Today I don't feel like doing anything except Jason Momoa." I do him.
That's a
I
fair
heard he's
assessment.
single. That could be a possibility. Okay, Alexi, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a sparkling wine.
Ooh, what kind of sparkling wine?
I have no idea.
Okay, sounds great.
It was literally like, honestly, I was like, I don't want to have a beer. I don't like it's 2 o'clock, but I have to do this somewhere. I was like, I don't want to go into the rum, because like afterwards I have to like move literally a metric ton of books. So I don't want to actually get too schnockered, and frankly, I'm a notorious lightweight. So
Good to know. Good to know for when we're at Dragon Con.
there you go. You know, Dragon Con is one of those shows where, because we have Dragon Con and usually Salt Lake City in either the next week or close proximity, usually when I come home from those two shows, I have this meme that I put on the Dragon Con website all the time, which is before Dragon Con, and it's Pope Francis, with the perfectly white thing and all that. And the end, it's the High Sparrow, where he's like dirty and disheveled, and they look very much alike, alarmingly so. And that's usually me when I come in from after Dragon Con, where I'm like, listen, I've had 5 days of nonstop, like talking and peopling and stuff. I want to go to bed and be left alone for 3 days. That's all I want. I usually don't get it, but I try.
I was going to say, because Jonathan Mayberry, I know he's one of your featured authors, loves coming on the show. He's been on it twice, but he says we are very bad examples because he gets completely blitzed. We're all whiskey drinkers, and we're all completely schnockered by the end of, and not like a little bit, like more than 2/3 of a fifth of vodka. I mean, a fifth of whiskey, and we're like, woohoo! So he's like, let's meet up. And I'm like,
that's one of
he's late one of the days. You might know where he's been.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that happens because, I give, as someone who's done this for a really long time, no hints on my age, but I've been doing this for a long time. And I give all of the baby authors who are going to Dragon Con the first time the talk, right?
Yeah.
And the talk is very simply this. I go, okay, you are going to be a visiting professional at Dragon Con. And they're like, yes. I was like, I'm going to tell you, despite the fact that Dragon Con is a lot of fun, we must be, I'm expecting you to be a professional. I don't want to have to bail you out or anything like that. And they all always, without fail, they all get indignant. They're like, Alexi, I've done San Diego. I've done Emerald City. I was like, yes, you have. I've done New York. I was like, yes, you have. Dragon Con is a very different animal. And they're like, how so? I was like, because those are all shows that are industry shows. Dragon Con is a fan show that has grown into, frankly, for lack of a better term, geek Mardi Gras. And you have to be on the float, sometimes literally. So if that is the case, and you are going to be on the float literally, I do not want you falling off that float, because then I have to explain to someone what happened to you. And that's always a bad day.
Well, we don't know. We'll just see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. They never listen. I know they never listen. Okay.
No.
And usually, like, by the third day they come into the booth and they're like, I'm like, good morning. How are you today? And they're like, yeah. I'm like,
2 more days.
2 more days, kids. And they're like,
2 more days.
How do you do this? And I'm like, mostly Catholicism, but that all depends. And they're like, I don't want 2 more days of this. I'm like, that's too bad. And by the way, afterwards you have the dead dog party. So, that's always fun.
Wow.
Ugh.
Uh,
So how did because you kind of brought this up that you didn't start in books. Where was that turning point at for you?
Well,
Where did
I've
you
always
step into the industry? How did that invitation or luck or event unfold?
I was always I mean, I've been in fandom since 9. That was my original claim of fame. My parents thought it was a wonderful idea before Dyfus to let a 9-year-old run rampant through a Star Trek convention by himself. And really, fandom kind of absorbed me into it. And, during my mid-20s, I had a different business. And when I sold it, I realized that I failed to adapt one critical set of skills, which is to work for other people. Never built it, ever. So, if you tell your boss, by the way, you're wrong, and these are all the reasons why you're wrong, I can do that as a consultant. I really can't do that as an employee. So what happened is that I ended up starting 2 businesses. First was a database management company, which was supposed to pay the mortgage.
Okay.
And the second was going to be a marketing company, which really at the time was only supposed to get me into conventions. That's really the extent of my ambition in terms of that. And so what happened was that I was planning on doing like marketing for television and movies and so on to fandom, because I have seen many companies try and market to fandom and fail spectacularly. And I'm like, you guys don't know the community. They're not impressed by that. This is what's going to impress them. And I actually still make that advocacy comment every day. I pretty much, during New York City Comic-Con, I usually pay for about 5 or 6 industry tickets to come in, and I bring advertising professionals and watch them drown in the saliva of their own nervous breakdown. It's lots of fun, and I explained to them, I was like, yes, you see a nice woman over there with blue body paint on, and I'm sure from you that's both alarming, and I'm sure it ticks an XY chromosome button there or two. However, what you're failing to understand is that if you put that person in a sports stadium with the blue body paint and put a D or a fence in her hand, not only would you market to her, but you would actively target her. What you guys have failed to understand is that fandom, pop culture entertainment, pop culture interest, whatever you want to call it, has become something rarefied. It's become a lifestyle choice. Just like soccer moms, sportsmen, outdoor enthusiasts, and sports fans. And you have failed to understand that. And this is actually where I started, was actually making that niche for myself. What happened was that in the middle of me advertising for a TV show, I was at a show actually in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Kevin J. Anderson walks up to me. And Kevin walks up to me and goes, hi, Alexi Vandenberg? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I don't know if you know me or not. I'm Kevin J. Anderson. I'm like, dude, I know who you are. You're a significant part of my college education, was me ditching the books for your books. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah. And he's like, have you ever thought about doing marketing for publishing? And I was like, no. And he's like, why not? I was like, because it's not my industry. I don't have any real knowledge or experience or really any kind of industry understanding of how publishing, advertising works and so on.
Mhm.
And so he looked at me and goes, well, you might be ahead of the game, since most publishers don't know that either.
That's funny.
And so I kind of went, okay. And it struck up a conversation, and Rabid Fanboy Marketing ended up being signed on to do marketing for both Kevin J. Anderson and then eventually Kevin J. Anderson's small press, which is Wordfire Press. And then what happened is that we started building a market presence and so on and so forth. And I realized with a great deal of alarm that he was correct, that New York publishers in particular have no idea how to actually market their books.
Oh, wow.
And it's a great amount of alarm. You know, that they think that, oh, I'm going to put it in the industry magazines. I'll put it in Publishers Weekly, and I'll put it in Locus, and we'll do a Barnes and Noble death march across the country where you sign, you know, 5 books per Barnes and Noble forever. And that is that's really what they consider a great marketing campaign. And I looked at this in horror and went, this is legit. And he's like, yeah, why? I was like, this is not how you do marketing. So we came up with a marketing plan, and the rest is history. Part of the marketing plan that we built was what was then called the Wordfire Press booth. Wordfire Press was bringing in celebrity authors like Kevin J. Anderson and others, mostly associated with Wordfire Press. Mm. And then what would happen is that we went from convention to convention. In that process, what I ended up doing is, you know, consulting with him and working with him and really being the guy on the ground to kind of build that model. It ended up in 2014 that Kevin came to me and was like, excuse me, taking a drink.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said to me, excuse me, Alexi, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm like, why? He's like, the logistics is too much. With my own writing career, my publishing house, and just the logistics of the booth, I can't do all 3. I was like, I can understand how that might be problematic. And he's like, so we're gonna cut that out. And I was like, what if I bought it from you? And he's like, yeah. Pardon? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'll buy the booth concept, the booth contingent. He's like, well, you kind of made it. And I was like, yeah, but it's yours. I did it under your consultancy. So I would purchase it from you. I would purchase your backstock. And that way you have a zero balance on that. And then what we can do is that we can talk about, you know, making sure that Wordfire Press always has a presence there. But then I can expand that model. And that model turned into Bard's Tower, which was my second business.
That's very amazing. Cool. Okay, mm-hmm. We're going to take a quick break before we go into the continuing saga, which will allow Val, I'm sure, to eat something during that. Anyway, we will be right back with Drinking with Authors.
I'm sure it's all sponsored. It's sponsored by Dole Bananas. Absolutely.
Oh my God, we'll be right back.
Sample locally sourced, quality distilled spirits in the beautiful Columbia River Gorge. At Skunk Brothers Distillery, we're family-owned, brewing small batch grain-to-bottle spirits, just like our grandfather did back in the Prohibition era. From handcrafted bourbons and moonshine to flavored blends and cordials infused with local fruit. Join us for a tasting tour and buy Skunk Brothers Spirits straight from the source.
It's all in the family at Skunk Brothers Spirits, located in Stevenson, Washington.
Okay, we're back, and for those that were experiencing the strobing of Alexi, because he's so powerful creating electrical currents through the universe.
I am so powerful that I was creating my own personal rave just around me.
See, and here I was thinking, like, it was just every time he blinks, we were blinking.
I was like, we were totally having a Doctor Who moment, and we were just forgetting things, so it's fine. It's fine. Okay, so you So I have a question, because you grew up around all these nerddoms and created Absolutely. A career around the nerddom thing. What and the literary track, how come you haven't written like fantasy or sci-fi, or how come you haven't gone down that path yet?
Fiction path.
The fiction path. Oh, well, very simply. I mean, 2 reasons is one is bandwidth. if you guys have ever seen me, I often am running around with pretty much my hair, sometimes literally and sometimes proverbially on fire. And that
Okay.
is a lot of hair. And also, I do not want to cross the streams quite that badly. Honestly, I debated on writing even the industry book because I'm like, it struck me as very close to vanity press, me going, why, this is my book, you know. And it's helpful that I am the non-author. I am the only non-author usually at the tower. Even my assistants and even my assistants or some such are usually authors or aspiring authors or want to be authors or so on. I very rarely have somebody who's like, nope, I have no interest in it. And actually, in certain ways, that helps me because I am the person who is able to objectively say, okay, I love you all, like my bastard stepchildren. But, you know, by the way, Jonathan Mayberry's books go here, Kevin's go there, you're right here, because, you know, come on. I can't have you on, you know, I can't have you have main billing. No, you are not that, you know, you're lovely, you're a great author, but you're not quite the celebrity author you think you are quite yet. You know, I have made the joke on occasion that, you know, the weight of the Nebula Award is often, you know, because it is built from the condensed ego of small time authors. You know, but this is one of those things, is that I'm able to objectively say, no, this is where we're going to be, this is what we need to do, and so on. And
Except
also,
as of September, you're going to be an author now too.
Yeah.
actually, but the tower will not be selling the book because I will not, like, I feel that would be a conflict of interest for me to actually sell my own book at the tower.
Oh,
And also, to be fair, it is a book that is based on, I mean, it is an industry book. It is a book for authors to get an idea of where the industry is going, where the industry has been, and what's going to be happening within the industry, and the changes that are going to be faced by both new authors, existent authors, all the way from your headliners to your person who is an indie author who has a book that is yay thick and is, you know, and that they're shopping it around and it's essentially written on computer paper. From everyone, there's going to be changes within this industry within the next 3 years, some of which you've seen, some of which haven't even come to pass yet. In fact, one of the reasons that the book has actually been delayed to September, actually two of them, I can say, in terms of the change of the industry. One of which is Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter was actually a discussion within the latter half of the book, but I planned for him to do that 3 years from now. And I had actually had a list of usual suspects of who was going to do it, who was going to do it first, and how it would be successful and how it would change the industry. Well, when Brandon kind of kicked that into gear 3 years ahead of time, I kind of had to rewrite that part of the book.
Do you think the pandemic had a little bit to do with speeding up?
Undoubtedly, because
ships?
that's the other part of this, is that the pandemic actually has affected paper supply chains on such a large level that honestly, I wasn't entirely sure that print copies of the book would be available when it was originally finished.
Oh, wow.
There are established authors who are quite actually, I know this personally. I will not mention the author's name, but he's a very successful author. He's probably one of Penguin Random House's up and coming young guns. He's very good. He's amazing, actually. And the first book in his series was not available for 7 months in mass market. And, that's a heavy drinking moment if I can't think of
Yeah.
And you're because Bart's Tower is direct with the shortages of the shippings and things, has your authors felt that?
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
table? Yeah.
I would say that everyone has felt that, ranging from your first timers all the way on up. In terms of retail space, yes. Retailers, it's not just Bart's Tower. Retailers across the country have been faced with a massive issue, and part of that is a discussion I have in the book, which is the supply chains that have been developed. This current iteration of publishing has only existed since 1947. And the problem is that whereas most other industries have adapted and changed and taken what worked in their past iteration and move forward with it and keep what works until it doesn't work anymore, then discard it, publishing has maintained its entire apparatus all the way up into the modern age, and kept the apparatus that has maintained since really about 1860. Now, there have been certain changes from 1860, but when Melville could actually recognize certain parts of your industry in its modern iteration, that should be alarming to anybody, because that's kind of like building a modern race car using the Model T assembly line.
Which that would suck. That would suck hardcore.
Yes.
It's already sucking hardcore.
And by the way, for all of you authors out there, what I've just said might be alarming to you, and I'm going to tell you this. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. Publishing is not going to change at all. It's lovely. Nothing's going to happen. By the way, that's a complete lie. But, we can certainly discuss how things are going to change. A lot of what I cover in the book is where I think publishing is going to go, how things are going to change, the balkanization of publishing, and also how this actually interacts with other areas of industry and where publishing is going to go in the future. For instance, why investing in mass markets might be a terrible idea, but investing in things like hemp paper might not be.
Interesting. Yeah. One thing that we haven't quite covered too, or as well, is that you have a publishing company yourself.
I do have a publishing house, which actually is the happy accident of the pandemic. When I bought Bard's Tower from Kevin, one of my agreements with him was that I would not, for 10 years, build a publishing house, because since the Wordfire Press booth, one of its main features was what was a nascent Bard's Tower. He didn't want me publishing because he didn't want authors to leave Wordfire to come to whatever I was building in the interest of just getting to the booth. So what we did, and especially since we were expanding, Bard's Tower is now actually the only nationally operating bookstore entirely devoted to the pop culture experience.
Oh, wow.
But what happened was, in 2020, we planned for 37 shows.
That's a lot.
Yes.
And how many did we fulfill before the world ended? 2.
2. In fact, my assistant at the time, who is also an author, my assistant at the time, her name is Michelle Corey. She calls me up and she's like, "Hey, Alexi, what's going on?" And I was actually at an amazing show called TachyCon. We had 2 shows running. We had 2 booths running simultaneously that weekend. One was in Richmond, Virginia. The other one was in Pensacola. or Pensacola, Florida, excuse me. And she calls me up and she's like, "Hey, Alexi, have you been watching the news?" I'm like, "No, hon. I'm in the middle of, I'm at a show. I live in a bubble until I leave that show. I mean, a meteor could hit my house and me not be aware of it until after the show."
It doesn't help that most convention centers are like Death Stars for any cell service or Wi-Fi or anything. So it's all bets are off.
Absolutely the case. So what happened was that she's like, "When's the next show?" I was like, "Emerald City." And she's like, "In Seattle?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Hey, Alexi, have you heard of this thing called COVID?" And I was like, "That's what's going on in Asia, right?" She goes, "Yeah, Alexi." I was like, "Well, that's in Asia. What's going to happen? I mean, it's not going to affect us right now." And she goes, "Well, the first case was reported in Seattle last week." I was like, "Well, it's only one case. How bad could it get?" Well, out of the mouth of fools. And the problem is that in order to avoid issues with books arriving on time, I usually buy books booked by author by the quarter. So I had spent $70,000 purchasing books for my first quarter of shows, which was a small number of shows. It was what, 8 shows?
Mhm.
From February all the way to April. And I had Jim Butcher, because Jim Butcher was getting ready to release several books, which is an entirely different conversation. And what pretty much happened is that they're like, "Oh, by the way, all of these shows are canceled." And I had $70,000 worth of books in my warehouse.
Wow.
Which, again, talk about a talk about a heavy drinking moment.
Yeah. No.
I will admit that I cried a bit, manly crying, but it was crying. Because I pretty much was like, not only do I not have any sort of resources because I sunk them into these books with an expectation of all of that, but what do I do now? So midway through, I actually ended up talking to, I was like, okay, several authors had come to me and had said, "Listen, we want to take our books away from major publishing houses and give them to you." And I was like, "Really?" They're like, "Yes." One was several New York Times bestsellers. So I was like, "Okay." So I called Kevin up and I was like, "Kevin, I know we said 10 years. We're on year 8. Would it be possible for me to abrogate that agreement in order for me to build a publishing house to make some money? If you tell me no, I will obey the contract, no problems. If you say yes, I would, I would dance for you to the tune of Night Sweats. I mean, I would love you forever, And Kevin's like, "Alexi, half of the world is on fire right now. Of course you can build a publishing house." I'm like, "I love you, man." I was, I was like, "Okay." So we kicked this off. First thing we did is that we did, the name had always been chosen as Prince of Cats.
What spawned the name? We gotta ask.
Yes. That sounds like there's a story behind this.
Well, there are several stories behind it. First of all, I was a really super quiet kid in middle school.
Right.
And because of a girl, because it must involve a girl, I actually ended up applying to become an actor in the Orlando Shakespeare Festival's Young Company.
Okay.
because I was impressing the girl. And this was a pilot program where they took 13 to 17-year-old kids, and they had them put on a Shakespearean play in a professional manner.
Okay.
And it was put as part of the Orlando Shakespeare Festival's entire thing, which is a big program.
It is.
I don't know if it still is, but I know it was at the time. So what happened is that they ended up liking my performance and my audition, and they ended up asking me to play Tybalt.
Oh.
For two reasons. First of all, I've been trained in swordsmanship since I was 7.
Nice.
So, I'm way older than 7 now, but
Only a little bit older than 7. I thought we weren't doing
Just a little
ages
bit
here,
over.
Alexi.
We're gonna leave them. It's only been a day or two.
But what happened was that they're like, wait a minute, you learned.
What was that?
Don't ask. Just keep going. We're fine. It's been recording the whole time.
She scared me, Erica.
I know
She's already
you.
scary as it is, and now she's interrupting podcasts. She wants to say in this. I am convinced.
For the record, Val, only when you're on. Only when you're on.
Well, I for one welcome our new robot overlord to the
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Thank you, new robot overlord, for letting us know what was happening. Okay.
So what happened was that I ended up, they're like, wait, all this choreography? I said, yeah, it's very easy. It's, thrust to 3, thrust to 5, thrust to 7. They're like, how do you know that? So I ended up becoming Tybalt. And really, a lot of the application of how I talk to people and how I do my marketing, especially at Bard's Tower, is based off of skills that I learned from the Orlando Shakespeare Festival.
How did
And,
the impressing the girl go?
Yeah, how did the girl go?
It went wonderfully. I mean, we went to 2 dates. They were complete disasters. And, I'm happily married to someone else now.
End of story.
So what happened was that, Tybalt's called the Prince of Cats. So I was like, that's going to be the name of my publishing house. Literary Productions is how I actually applied what I have learned in publishing going forward, because you notice we're not Prince of Cats Press, we're not Prince of Cats Publications, we're Prince of Cats Literary Productions. Part of what I wanted to do is that a lot of publishers, especially the big publishers, go, yes, we will take that book from you, Mr. Agent or Mr. Author, or Mrs. Author and Mrs. Agent. It all depends. Thank you. We will take that. Here is your $5,000 check if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
And then piss off until I need another book. That's really how, for those of you who haven't gone through the experience, that's usually how large publishers work. They do not want your input. They will give you a copy of the book for you to edit, and that is about it. And you have no say in how it is marketed, how it is developed, how it is moved, anything like that. In fact, pretty much you're universally ignored until they need another book from you.
And a lot of those contracts, and I think this is a point that many authors have made the mistake. They get excited, big publisher comes in. Be careful, because they lock you into where you only can write for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it's also one of those things where New York publishers have gotten into an industry and a psychological lockstep where if your book, they want the home run, when sometimes all they need is a base hit, to use a baseball term. My wife is rubbing off on me clearly because I'm not a baseball guy. I am not of the body. But, you know, I will put it this way, that, this is, they want the home run. They absolutely want the home run. If you are not somebody who has hit sell through, meaning that you have, sold through in terms of market share, up until, within your first 3 weeks, they won't want to talk to you again. And there are a lot of authors who have had their careers damaged, stalled, or ruined based entirely on a false presumption that, they come in there like, you're going to be the next big thing. You're going to be the next Brandon Sanderson. You're going to be the next, Stephen King, the next George Martin, the next whomever. And that's, first of all, that's doing damage to authors. That's also doing damage to the industry. And both are a readjustment that are based on what has been built into this industry that is absolutely not necessary. In addition to that, what happens is that there is a methodology of, okay, backlist and mid-list authors are essentially shunned to the side. Now, the reality of that is that Thor, IRS versus Thor Power in the 1980s did a great deal of damage to publishing houses and the mid-list. However, they have not taken into account the technologies that are involved now in actually producing additional work.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you point out that they toss the backlist to the side when you look at the research, especially from major distributors. They're all saying that most of the profits, 70% or higher every year for the last 5 years, comes from a backlist.
Yeah.
And for those who don't understand what a backlist book qualifies for, that is a book that was published 2 years ago or older.
That is correct, and my apologies. I forgot to qualify that. A backlist is that, and a mid-list author is somebody who is completely, they're not a bestseller, but they're a solid selling author. These are not unsuccessful books. These are books that are moving towards that. And by the way, the longevity of books has extended, but people have failed to actually realize that. And also, New York Publishing's data in terms of what is selling and what is not selling is actually not only bad, but willfully bad at this point. There's no excuse for it. But that's a different discussion. But so what happened is that literary productions came around in regards to very simply this. I wanted to build it off of a Hollywood studio model, whereas the author themselves maintain the rights to their book, always.
Mm-hmm.
My books are not published by Prince of Cats. They are published by Prince of Cats in association with author or the author's company or whatever they have. Because what happens is that those rights are shared jointly with us. And then what happens is that the production house, Prince of Cats, actually is the person who gets the marketing team together, the editor together, the layout team together, and them in conjunction with me as Prince of Cats as manager, as well as the author themselves, are able to collaborate to build the book together. It is a collaborative process rather than an exclusionary.
I think that's awesome. We talk a lot on this show about how you can do things differently with publishing, but which is very cool, and people should check out your websites. I want to end though on a fun note because we're coming to the end of this podcast, and I want a ridiculous story from you that has humor, eloquence. I want it all.
Yeah, for those who have not met Alexi, he tells some of the best stories in the industry of things that have happened, from celebrities tripping to running into celebrities behind Italian restaurants. I've heard of quite a few, and they're all entertaining.
Oh God, because you mentioned two right there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when Colin Baker, the sixth Doctor, yes, sixth Doctor, lost his tooth on stage in front of me. That was a bad day. Two. Well, Christopher Walken, wanting to be chased by my car, which is in and of itself good.
Okay, Christopher Walken wanting to be chased by your car? What?
Erica's not heard this one.
Am I allowed to swear on this? Because there's
yes,
You're
you
fucking
can
allowed to
say
swear on
whatever
this.
you
It's a
want.
fucking adult podcast. You can't drink on a fucking podcast.
There we go.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Because this, by the way, this is the first time I'm going to do this story sitting down because it involves my hands and usually a lot of physical comedy.
See, you have to watch the YouTube. Me and Val could both be like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't know what to do with my hands. Okay.
Go ahead.
This is actually before the literary stuff happened. I was at New York City Comic Con, which I usually do not take the booth to because honestly, every publishing house is there. It's a punch that Ali didn't give to Foreman. I'm superfluous there, but it's my local show because I'm out of very North New Jersey. I'm literally right across the bridge. So what happens is that I was asked to come to an Italian restaurant in the village by a TV executive, which I didn't want to do.
Okay.
Because I'm like, why am I there? I'm supposed to be there to be the fanboy stamp of approval. I know why I'm going. Like, I know why they want me there. It serves no purpose for me. But I'm being nice. And I hate it when I have to be nice to people that I really just don't want to be nice to. But c'est la. So, anyway, here we go. I decided because it was going to be probably a late night and the bus shuts down at like 2 a.m. I decided to just drive my car in.
Okay.
Never drive into the city. It's usually more money with it. But I did it because I just wanted to get home. I didn't want to have an Uber that's going to take me to some sort of park and ride in the middle of Secaucus, New Jersey, and then me have to navigate all that fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that I'm there. And I did my thing. I saw all of their material. I was like, oh yeah, that's very nice. This is not going to go anywhere. But oh yeah, that's very nice. And oh yeah, oh that's great. And wow, you stole the vampire detective concept from Forever Night and Angel. Yeah, this is going to be great. Why not? I heard all of it. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, so finally I get to leave. So I'm like, okay, I've done my due diligence. I leave the Italian restaurant. I go towards my car, which I had pre-parked there well ahead of time. The day before, I actually had to take the train into the convention center from the village where the damn restaurant was and then take it back. But now I'm done. So I'm free. And all of a sudden I hear, those bastards, they left me. Those bastards, they left me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Right? So in the middle of the parking lot, I see this guy screaming this at the top of his lungs. And I'm like, hello? You okay? And the guy turns around and goes, yeah. But my bastard friends, they left me. They left me right here. Those bastards. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Christopher Walken. That's like, suicide case. Like Christopher Walken. Okay, this is cool. And I was like, well, can I help you? He goes, yeah, you can help me. I need new friends. You're my new friend.
Okay.
And my brain is going through like, part of, the slithering, ambitious part of my brain is like, take the friendship, take it. We could use this. The other part is going, excuse me, I don't think he's quite correct in his things and perceptions. I was like, well, okay, how can I help? And he's like, well, I need a ride because my friends, those bastards, they left me. I was like, yeah, I got that. And he's like, I need to go home. I was like, I'm like, can I shove him in a cab? Like a bus? Like, so I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that to this guy. I'm not going to go inside and ask because I'm his new friend. So I'm like, great. Okay, well, where do you live? He's like, on the east side. Where, sorry? He's like, I don't know. On the east side. He's like, somewhere that way. I'm like, he's like, here's my wallet. Find out where I live.
Okay. Best friends. There you go.
I now have
Trust. Friendship, trust immediately.
Walken's wallet. And the Slytherin part of me is going, give it back to him. For the love of Christ, give it back. And I'm like, thank you. And he's like, well, open it and find out where I live. Like, oh God, what am I doing? How did I get this? How did this happen? How did this happen? So, sure enough, I'm like opening it up gingerly, like in front of him. So it's like, I'm not going to say that I'm going to make sure he sees whatever altered state he's in, that he sees that I am not like lifting a credit card or cash or anything from Christopher Walken, because I can already see the headline tomorrow, New Jersey marketing genius steals Christopher Walken's wallet. I can see that here. It's not good. So I'm like, he goes, yeah, that's the place. I'm like, okay. Now my car has an auto start on it. Just one of those things where you click it and the car starts, right? Now, this has already gone really pear-shaped really quickly. This is not what I wanted to do.
Oh no, we lost Erica.
Oh, stop.
We lost Erica. Is that why? Hold on, let me make sure this wasn't.
It's still recording.
Keep going. She goes, I froze. Be right back. Yeah, it'll keep recording because it just gives it just trades off things. We had this happen the other day because he's in the mountains and chaos happens in the mountains.
Will she still be able to download this recording or? Oh,
yes. We panicked like the first time. Thank you to Zoom. They are awesome, and it keeps recording, even though. Crazy AI lady likes to interrupt now.
It's okay. Hey, she wanted to be involved in the conversation. That's okay. Okay. Remember, when the Terminators come, I'm your friend.
We always, my husband and I always joke that Google likes him better than me. He can say something and she'll do it the first time. I'll say it, and you can see her because they glow. So you can see glow. And I say the command identical to what he said, and nothing happens.
I got one better than that. Can you imagine having a home AI with a name like Alexi?
Oh no. Oh.
So like, somebody will be like, Alexi, I need this. And, Alexa will go, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. I mean, when my wife is like, Alexi, you XY chromosome addled imbecile. This is what happened. Hey,
I am back. Believe it or
this
not.
is good.
Oh, from a different angle.
It's don't get me started. Just thoroughly ridiculous what's happening right now. So
Hey, but you don't have a rave in your house, so it's good.
no, it's true. It's true. I do not have a rave in my house. So anyway, yes, you got to love the internet up here in the mountains that decides to die all the time, all on its own. It's like, hey, I'm just kidding. I'm done being existing. So it makes
It
recording.
happens.
Hooray! Everything's back as it needs to be.
Did we finish the story that I missed?
No, not yet. We were waiting for you. We
We
were
were
talking
waiting for me.
about how technology interacts with us.
Right. Yeah, no, technology is jinxing me today. So with that,
What happens is that, I have an auto start. I'm not sure where we left off.
just keep going.
Keep going.
All right. So I have an auto start on my car. So I hit the auto start, and Mr. Walken, who is clearly impaired by some way, shape, or form, goes, "Your car, it's alive." And then I turn to him, and he goes, "Get it to chase me," and starts running serpentine through the parking lot. And I'm like, "Sir? Sir," and he's like, "Get it to chase me! Get it to chase me! Come on, get it to chase me!" I'm like,
You're
No.
holding his wallet still at this point, too.
"Yes, I am holding his wallet," and he is running. I mean, the number of ways that this is not good have not only multiplied, but are now exponentially growing. I'm like, oh God. Now it has morphed from, New Jersey marketing guy, steals Christopher Walken's wallet to New Jersey marketing guy steals Christopher Walken's wallet and chases him with car.
I love all of these things. I love every single thing that's happening right now.
And meanwhile, the Slytherin ambition part of me is going, ah! And the other part is now crying and just drinking absinthe. Like, fuck it. Fuck this. Fuck
We're
it.
done.
So I'm like, sir, can't touch him, sir. Sir, and so finally, is like, come on, get it to chase me. This guy comes out and goes, "Mr. Walken," and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Your friends have been looking for you." He goes, "Oh, they're inside?" He goes, "Yes, sir, they are." He goes, "Oh, all right. I guess they're inside. This guy's car is alive." And he goes, and I mean, and the little Italian guy who's there is like, "Yes, sir." Like, just
Like he's done this before.
Just like, and that New York dead-eyed kind of, I really am not paid enough to deal with this bullshit, but okay. If you've ever been to New York, anybody in the service industry, just look at them and they have that dead eye.
Yes.
Every human being on the planet, including this one who has done me no wrong.
Wow.
So, meanwhile, he's like, I gotta go. My friend's inside. I was like, yes, sir.
Yes.
And he goes on. I was like, sir, excuse me, sir, your wallet. He goes, oh yeah, I need that, right? I was like, yes, please take it.
Just please take it.
Meanwhile, like, little Italian maitre d' guy is like looking at me like, I was like, don't ask. Please don't ask. Please. I am neither a dealer nor a thief nor anything you probably think that I am. The other one that I have to say that is quite close to me is we had this is called an author managing the expectations of an author. Young author comes in and she's like, I have these books in my series. I'm like, yes. She goes, so we'll release them all at the same time. I'm like, no. She's like, why not? I was like, because they have to be edited and crafted and developed, and you releasing all of them on various channels all at the same time as is never good. 6 months apart. 6 months apart. 6 months apart makes a lot of sense. 6 months allows things to percolate through the algorithm. Why? Because that is the saner and safer way to go. Yeah. But that one, actually having those conversations, having the conversation with young authors who think that, I have this great book. Yes, that's excellent. So when do I get on the New York Times list? Like, not on your first.
Well, just so you know, I always, I get that question a lot too, especially with everything I do. And no one really does their homework, but there is statistics out there looking over those authors, and less than 10% of them make a profit on their book.
Absolutely.
So if that doesn't, like, there's
less than 10%, and some of that, and that is for, I've explained to authors, don't buy t-shirts for your book. For the love of God, don't do that. Why not? Well, because you're trying to sell t-shirts. If it is a marketing ploy where you're giving away the t-shirts and you're willing to absorb that cost, that is one thing. If you're just trying to if you're trying to sell swag, you're trying to sell swag to a property and an IP that no one knows yet.
That's true. Is that in your book?
That is in my book.
That was awesome. I hate to do this, but we have to wrap up now because
it's been a pleasure, guys.
It has been
absolutely
amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Self-promotion time, though, Alexi. How do you
shameless plug
doing everything you do?
Okay, they can catch me on any number of email sites, including rabidfanboy.com, theprinceofcats.com, bardstower.com. They can also reach me on Facebook, any of those, and I'm not a particularly shy person, so they can also catch me on my own Facebook page, Twitter, and so on. I'll say this: keep on creating, keep on writing. If you guys want to catch, you want to talk to me about anything, I'm pretty open. In fact, I'm trying to do a YouTube series right now on Brandon Sanderson's Kickstarter and what that actually entails. You can reach me any number of those places.
Very, very cool. Thank you again for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you for having me
here. Absolutely. Okay, guys, this has been Drinking with Authors. I've been your host, Erica Lance. My co-host has been Valerie Willis, who's muted herself. So we'll see if she just talked and she's muted. It's fine. She's pretty.
And pretty. It's because suddenly the dogs were going to start barking. I get to tell.
I'm not
love
even gonna
just-
ask how you knew that. I feel it has to do with the coffee you were just drinking and what you put in it.
caramel.
I can feel the dogs were gonna start, whatever. Anyway, our amazing guest has been Alexi Vandenberg, and our sponsor has been Skunk Brother Spirits, coupon code DWA10, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for having me, guys. Have fun.
Absolutely.